everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com, and Adam Pacitti is away on official Cultaholic business. So that only means one thing, and that just means basically I'll be filling in this week for SmackDown Graded. I'm going to provide each individual segment with a lovely individual grade to determine overall how good or bad SmackDown Live was. And wasn't it an eventful one as well? We had matches set up for Money in the Bank. We had all kinds of, just wrestling shenanigans, guys. It was crazy. Big heel turn as well, actually. Let's get serious about that. So anyway, without any further ado, let's get on with SmackDown Live Graded. So guess who's out to open the show? Bling, bling, ching, ching, holla, cheddar. Holla, cheddar. Teddy Long. It's Teddy Long's out to open the show. No, it's Shane McMahon, and he's here to criticize Roman Reigns for punching his dad last week. Sorry, Superman punching his dad last week. Shane gets some easy heat by saying, who would dare put their hands on somebody's father? The joke being, of course, that Shane McMahon battered George Miz just a few weeks ago. I see what you're doing there. You're being a deliberate hypocrite. It's a good one. Good way of getting the crowd to boo him as well. Then he calls out Roman Reigns and says, come on, get out here right now. I'm going to sort this out, and that is an order as your employer. Roman does come out, and I'm like, oh, this is a total mismatch. Like, is there any way that Roman Reigns can survive the best in the world? But seriously, we're all expecting Roman to just beat Shane McMahon down. But in the words of that lad from Star Wars, it's a trap because Elias runs down. First of all, I pretended that I didn't know that he was called Admiral Akbar, and then I just did not do it to trap any justice whatsoever. But it was a trap. Elias ran down, but Roman saw it come in, turned around, punched Elias off the apron, but Shane was on him with tiny little punches. Oh my God, can Roman survive? For a little bit, yes he can. Roman, thankfully, eventually manages to fight off Shane, despite Shane being the best in the world, and just nails him with a big boot, and Shane doesn't go down, he just stumbles. So then Roman goes, all right then, mate. Just big haymaker to the jaw. Shane stumbles back into the corner. I'm like, take a bump, Shane. He's the big dog. He's the big dog, and he's just battering you with full force, like proper right hands. And Shane's just like, ugh. I was getting so annoyed. Eventually, Elias recovers, and then they beat Roman down, and then Elias hits him with the drift away. And it's, you know what? It's a decent opening to SmackDown, despite Shane not, falling over because a giant Samoan muscle machine has punched him in the face. But whatever, it's fine. So yeah, I'm going to give this opening segment a B. I have subtracted points because of Shane's refusal to properly sell for the big dog, Roman Reigns, the face of the company. But it's fine. Still gets a B. And later on in the show, Elias would challenge Roman for Money in the Bank, which Roman would accept. And it looks like Elias and Shane are in cahoots, which is great because that makes it more likely, I think, that the match between Roman and Elias will be under some sort of no DQ stipulation or some sort of something that will allow Shane to get involved. And I really hope so, because I think that Roman is excellent when it comes to no DQ matches. He's pretty damn good at them, and I want to see a bit of a stip. I don't just want to see a straight singles match between the two. Next up, we have the reigning IC champion Finn Balor taking on Andrade. This is a rematch from Andrade's first night on Raw when he beat Finn, but it was also his last night on... Andrade was never on Raw. What are you talking about? Well, it wasn't even a thing. Now, before we progress, I must just say that I've checked my notes for this match, and don't ever accuse me of not being a thorough recapper. I'll just read out a word for word. Andrade jumps Balor at the bell, and it's fast-paced from there. Bang, 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 bing, bang. Don't even remember writing that. Bang, 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 bing, bang. The finish is clever too, with Zelina Vega leaping into Andrade when Balor ducks, and it leads to Balor getting the victory. That's the sort of analysis you want. Just to recap, bang, 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 bing, bang. This gets a B+ grade. I thought it was good. It was quite short, but they packed a lot of action in. Normally, I don't like 50-50 booking, but I do not mind Finn getting his win back over Andrade here because of all the circumstances surrounding it. The whole Andrade switcheroo, darting between brands and stuff. Now that he's back on SmackDown, I think it's right that Balor got the victory. So, decent start to SmackDown here, decent opening segments. Next up, Peyton Royce, who, lest we forget, is one half of the Women's Tag Team Champions versus Kairi Sane. And Kairi Sane wins in literally just over a minute with her big, lovely elbow drop. But Peyton Royce, man, the champions lose again. The champions lose again. Free Sasha Banks. Now this gets a C- because even though it was quite frustrating again to see one of the tag champs just lose in such quick and easy fashion, it wasn't quite as bad as when it happened on Raw, where Billie Kay lost to, I think, Naomi. Two reasons why this wasn't quite as bad. Number one, the promo that the Iconics did before the match wasn't as bad as the one on Raw. The one on Raw was that Ariana Grande joke, I still can't get it out of my head. It was, ugh. It wasn't very good at all. And then the second reason that it's not quite as bad is that at least Peyton and Royce lost to Kyrie Sane, who's part of a viable tag team that are potentially going to take the titles from them. It's sort of building up a legit threat towards the Iconics. Whereas on the other hand, I think it was Billie Kay losing to Naomi. Naomi is not a viable tag team threat because she literally just lost her tag team partner in the whole shake-up situation. So this one wasn't as bad as the one on Raw, but it was still frustrating to see. Next up, I sometimes don't include tiny little promos like this one backstage because they're sort of too short to give a grade to, but I thought this one was definitely worth mentioning even if I'm not going to assign it a grade. It was Aleister Black, and the interesting thing behind this is, well, one, he's now a single star because he's been split from Ricochet due to the shake-up, but secondly, he seems like he could be turning heel. The whole gist of the promo, even though it was only like a few seconds long, was like, oh, people judge me because of my appearance and my name and they think that I'm some sort of evil guy. Well, soon you're going to see the real Aleister Black. So one of two things can happen. He's going to fully embrace that stereotype and become just a horrible satanic heel, or he's going to do a Brodus Clay and come out funking away. Funk is on a roll, and he's going to be the Aleisterosaurus. Oh, that's just dreadful, that man. Next up, it looks like we're going to get Chad Gable versus Jinder Mahal. Jinder and the Sings are on SmackDown now. Was that announced? Was that I don't think it was enough. We're about to get Gable versus Jinder, but Lars Sullivan jumps Gable during his entrance and then runs in the ring. Jinder bails. Lars Sullivan beats up both of the Singh brothers. R-Truth runs down to get revenge for the attack last week. Lars Sullivan beats him up too. They're really invested in making Lars Sullivan look strong, and I can totally see why. I'm going to give this a B-. It felt a little bit laboured at parts just because there was so many little fragments to it. So there was like the beatdown of Gable, then the beatdown of the Sings, and then the beatdown of R-Truth, who had to do like a full run out with music and everything. So it wasn't just like bang, 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 like when Brock Lesnar used to run in and destroy people. It was a bit slower, and as I say, a bit more laboured, but it was still very effective. I think a B- is a fair grade. I'm still invested in the Lars Sullivan character, and I'm interested to see where he goes. The only other thing sort of drawing it back for me from a grading perspective is the fact that it's not quite as impactful as when he was beating down legendary names like Kurt Angle or the Hardy Boys. This is more like a bit of a step down, but it's still effective, and I still think they're going in the right direction with Lars. Next up, we get maybe the longest segment on the show, I think, all in all, if you include the promo and the match. So let's break it down. We start off with Charlotte Flair in the ring saying that Becky Lynch never beat her at WrestleMania. She didn't pin her, she didn't submit her. To be fair, Charlotte, she didn't even pin Ronda Rousey. But she's saying essentially, I did not lose the SmackDown Live Women's Championship. Ronda Rousey lost that for me. Becky comes out and disagrees. Obviously, she says, Charlotte, you're the web that I can never untangle myself from, or that management will never allow me to untangle myself from. You need to get to the back of the line. Stop just demanding shot after shot after shot. I've beaten you before multiple times. What's going on? And I honestly feel as though Charlotte was a little bit selfish in this promo. I know that it's cool sometimes when people talk over each other, gives it a raw, improvised edge, kind of like the Attitude Era days, but there also needs to be a bit of a compromise. So I feel as though Charlotte was occasionally not stepping on Becky's lines, but Becky would say something cool like, and at the end of the day, I'll still be Becky 2 belts. And the crowd would go, yeah, but Charlotte would immediately go like, I've done it 8 times and I'll do it 9. And everyone's like, cheers for that, mate. It's really sapped the momentum out of the promo there. But you know what, that feels like a bit of a harsh criticism, because by no means was this a bad promo segment. Then Bayley came along, and at this point I was like, oh, Bayley's not the strongest talker, certainly not as strong as Charlotte or especially Becky, but she showed a lot more intensity than usual. It was pretty cool to see. Bayley's basically saying, right, Becky, I've lost track of the amount of times you've beaten Charlotte, but I haven't lost track of the amount of times you've beaten me. 0. That's a killer line. The crowd popped for it. I love that. Charlotte's there, still kind of, for me, I think, trying to steal the attention a little bit. But she's a heel, you know, that's what she does, I guess. I think we can forgive it, even though I've mentioned it twice now. And then Becky basically says, you know what? I want to see that match. I want to wrestle you, Bayley. Charlotte's like, no, that's not happening. And eventually, the long and short of it is, we're about to get a match between Charlotte Flair and Bayley to determine Becky's #1 contender. But only on the SmackDown side of things, because on the Raw side, it's still very much Lacey Evans. The match itself, which takes place right after this segment, is a pretty cool one because the crowd are fully invested in Bayley. They really want to see the fresh matchup between Bayley and Becky Lynch, and so do I. But at the same time, I can't fully begrudge the decision to have Charlotte win this match, which she does. There's a few cool near falls for Bayley. Charlotte pops out of a pinning predicament at one point and then just hits it with the spear and picks up the clean pinfall victory in about 10 minutes. I'd have liked to have seen Bayley maybe come even closer to winning, maybe hit a finisher or whatever. But, you know, it was still a good match. I'm going to give this whole thing, like the promo segment and the match itself, a combined B grade, because I thought it was fairly strong with little issues here and there. But at the same time, part of me really did want to see Bayley win that. But I can't be too annoyed because after the match, later on in the show, Becky announced that she will be actually defending both titles at Money in the Bank. The Raw one against Lacey Evans and the SmackDown one against Charlotte Flair. And I think that that's going to be a very interesting turn of events because anything could happen. She could retain both titles, she could lose both, although I strongly don't think that's going to happen, or she could lose one or the other. I think that the fact that there's multiple possibilities makes this pretty good, and I do have to concede that maybe Charlotte is better for this particular situation than Bayley would have been, especially alongside Lacey Evans, who in many ways is like the new Charlotte. And finally, the main event, nice, innocent, happy babyface main event, as I'm sure you know by now. Kofi Kingston versus Shinsuke Nakamura. A pretty decent match, actually, between two guys who clearly match up pretty well in the ring. Loads of people ringside for this one, so Nakamura has Rusev and Lana. Rusev's in a suit. I love the fact that he suited up for this match when no one else did. It's fantastic, and he looked great as well. And in Kofi's corner, we've got Xavier Woods and the Big O, Kevin Owens, because obviously Big E's on the sideline for now, so Kevin Owens has stepped in to replace him in the New Day. It's also nice to see Nakamura in a big singles match again for what feels like the first time in forever. But his tag partner can't help but get involved. Kofi hits the SOS on Nakamura. It looks like he may have the match won, but we'll never find out because Rusev runs in and breaks up the pinfall, and that leads to a big old brawl. It's a pretty good brawl actually, with Kevin Owens subbing in for Big E, flipping Xavier Woods over the top rope onto Rusev, but then Nakamura runs around the ring, like cleans out Xavier Woods with a Kinshasa, and then Nakamura gets in the ring, runs at Kevin Owens, but Kofi pushes him to safety. It's like Hollywood stuff, this. Nakamura hits the ropes, comes back, trouble in paradise from Kofi, Nakamura's down and out, happy ending. And that is how SmackDown Live, and no it's not, Kevin Owens super kicked Kofi Kingston in the face and is now a bloody heel again, and I'm trembling with rage but also excitement too. Yes, Kevin Owens beat the crap out of Kofi Kingston, but he went to get the belt and then he held it in front of Kofi and gloated and said, I hope your kids had a good time, I hope you had fun, but now I'm gonna take this. And Kofi, instead of like lying there all dazed and listening to the heel monologue like we normally see, because he's Kofi Kingston, he's just full of like warrior spirit, just gets up and starts laying in right hands to Kevin Owens. And I'm like, yes, this is the feud that I want, this is brilliant. Xavier tries to get involved again, but really pays for his good deeds, I guess, with Kevin Owens just powerbombing him right under the apron. Brutal spot, one that I'm glad Kofi didn't take as a slightly older guy and a slightly, I guess, a guy with less muscle mass than Xavier, who I guess takes that with more protection. I don't really know how these things work, but it looked nasty either way. And that's the heartbreaking end of SmackDown Live, with Kevin Owens standing tall on the ramp, having promised to take the championship from Kofi and powerbombing his best mate into the ring apron. I love heel Kevin Owens so much. This segment gets an A. The match itself wasn't an A, especially with the DQ finish, but it all fed into a wonderful post-match segment. And the only drawback for me is that I don't want either guy to lose the feud. I love them both. My gut instinct, like my heart, is saying like, no, Kofi shouldn't lose yet. But I really want to see Kevin Owens as WWE champion one day. So I wouldn't be averse to maybe, if I was booking this, just in a perfect little Jack the Jobber world, I'd like to see Kofi retain and Money in the Bank, Owens feud with someone else for a little bit, and then come back to take the title from him, maybe on a bigger stage, maybe let's say at SummerSlam. Would that be a long enough reign for Kofi? I don't know. I feel as though Owens definitely should win the title at some point. I just can't work out when. I wouldn't be too angry if he won it at Money in the Bank. No, I would. Kofi needs to hold it for a little bit longer. Let's go to the overall grade now for SmackDown Live, and let's give SmackDown Live a lovely B+. I thought it was generally quite a strong show. None of the matches were absolutely excellent or anything, but most of them were pretty strong, and that final segment as well with Kevin Owens turning heel was superb. It wasn't a show without flaws though, which is why it doesn't get like an A or an A- or anything, but it was certainly better, I think you probably will agree, than Monday Night Raw. Thanks very much for watching, and let us know what you think in the comments section down below. You can follow Cultaholic on Twitter at Cultaholic and on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. If you enjoy what we do, then please do check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Cultaholic, where you can pledge. And don't forget, of course, most importantly of all, to hit subscribe and to join us.